Fun in Commander can be really difficult to define. What is exciting to one player might not be very exciting to a different player. But if we step back a little bit, I think for the majority of casual EDH players, fun is when your deck gets to do its goal. Which is why matching power levels can be crucial in casual Commander. The reason you might not want to play a precon against a CEDH deck isn't just that your chances of winning are low, but that you would probably not progress towards your goal before the game ended. I think a lot of casual EDH players, win or lose, won't be too mad at a game if they were able to do their thing at least a little bit. I'm reminded of the classic phrase, a good Commander game is one where everybody gets to do their thing. For this video, that is the assumption I will be making. When your deck does its thing and moves towards your intended goal, I will assume you are having fun. For example, if you are a token deck, you are having fun when you are making tokens, buffing your tokens, or attacking with tokens. If you are a reanimator deck, you are having fun when you are discarding big dudes, reanimating big dudes, and attacking with big dudes. And initially, interaction, which would be removal, protection, or anything else that disrupts your opponent, might seem like they don't actually enhance your fun. But I think that eventually, the longer you play, the more you will find that interaction does enhance the fun of EDH. And if you think I'm crazy, well, you'd be right, I'm crazy. But please, at the very least, just hear me out. But first, with further ado, this video is sponsored by Rocket Money. Managing your finances is incredibly important. I would know I have a fancy piece of paper saying that I know a lot about finance. I'd show you, but I actually misplaced my diploma. Anyway, Rocket Money can help you get on top of your finances. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel your subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. With Rocket Money, you can create a customized budget in seconds. The app shows you where your money is going at all times and identifies top spending categories with insights on how you can stay within your budget better. As the owner of Bauble Factory, yes, that is the real name of the company I made up, balancing my budget is crucial. Rocket Money will also notify you about upcoming charges, or when your balance is low, to help you avoid overdrafts and late fees. Additionally, Rocket Money automatically analyzes your accounts to determine the optimal time for you to save so you reach your goals faster. Choose your savings goal, pick a preferred savings frequency, and watch your savings start to grow. You can edit, pause, or withdraw at any time. And once you connect to your bank account, Rocket Money identifies all of your subscriptions in a single list. From there, you can select the ones you don't want anymore, and Rocket Money may be able to help you cancel with just a few taps. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/trinket or click the link in the description to get started for free. Okay, so what is interaction? This is what a lot of players will often call your vegetables. Things you kind of need for your deck to be healthy that are separate from your deck's theme, like card draw or ramp. Much like a child with their vegetables, players will try to have as little as possible. Now I know what you're saying. Con, I don't want to play a control deck. That's the common response when I talk about adding more interaction to your deck. Now, although I love control decks and stacks and all that jazz, that's not what this video is about. This video is more about how interaction increases the fun of your deck, not about how you can add so much interaction that you 3v1 the table and control everybody. That's more this video, check it out. So why is interaction fun? Although there are some players who will literally play zero interaction at all, most players are not like that. I think the vast majority of casual EDH players will play a Blasphemous Act or Swords to Plowshares here and there, even though it might be antithetical to your deck. That's why 34% of Krenko decks play Blasphemous Act, because players know that sometimes you will fall behind and want a board wipe to catch back up. And you can say the same for spot removal. Yes, if your deck is the fastest at the pod and you crush everybody every game, you don't really need removal. But if someone's deck can win on turn 7 usually, and your deck usually doesn't win till turn 8, you might need some removal to slow them down. This is where most players land. You play a few removal spells here and there to not lose to the faster decks or to catch up when you fall behind. So you play the bare minimum amount of removal to help with that, and you don't lose too many slots in your deck to not doing the thing. But what if I told you interaction also does your thing? I get it, we all want to enact our game plan, and interaction actually helps with that. Take a card like Heroic Intervention, for example. In a token deck, this does not make tokens, it does not buff up your tokens, it does not attack with tokens, but it does let you tank a board wipe, which will help you keep your board in play so you can go back to attacking with tokens. A negate does not enact your game plan, but you can stop your opponent from casting a 1,000-year storm and nuking the table. If they use the storm to take 100 turns, you won't enact any game plan. Why play Graveyard Hate? It doesn't do anything for you, right? But in the late game, you literally can't outvalue a Muldrotha deck. So in your casual no-combo mid-range deck, Graveyard Hate lets you actually play your late game and try to mid-range out the Muldrotha. When you play interaction, whether it's protecting your stuff or removing your opponent's, that is moving you towards your goal, even if it's not directly doing so. And interaction also doesn't need to be separate from your game plan. You can have your cake and eat it too. Like I said earlier, players treat interaction as vegetables, so they have the minimum amount in the most bland way possible. They throw in regular counterspell, Path to Exile, and some mana efficient board wipe, because those are just the best, right? You want to spend as little mana on the veggies so you can spend your mana on the fun part. But you don't need to do that at all, especially in casual EDH. Look, mana efficiency is great. I love it just as much as the next CEDH player. But when I'm playing casual EDH, mana efficiency isn't at the top of my list in terms of qualities that I want on a card. Instead, I'm looking for synergy. A Vanquish the Horde is great because it's so cheap in terms of mana. But in a token deck, Martial Coup not only clears the board, but it sets you up with a board of tokens, which is literally doing the thing in your token deck. Executioner's Capsule is not the most mana efficient removal spell. It's literally Doomblade, but costs more mana. Though, if you're playing a deck like Silas Akiri and care about the number of artifacts in play, then there are upsides to having the capsule just sitting there or in your graveyard. I'll use an example from one of my decks. In my Tawanos list, I'm not playing Unsummon, I'm playing Aether Spellbomb. And yes, it is less mana efficient than a literal Unsummon, but I can reanimate the Bauble, I can copy the effect, it's an artifact in play for my Clock of Omens. It does a lot more and amplifies my theme even further while also being interaction. When your interaction suite looks like this, it no longer feels like you need to take a break from doing your thing to play interaction, since it just meshes with the game plan. Now, of course, some cards are irreplaceable. Teferi's Protection is an insane piece of protection that is wholly unique. It is unlikely you can find a synergy piece that does something similar, even for more mana. And there's nothing wrong with playing interaction that is not reliant on your synergy. Sometimes you simply need a counterspell for your deck, and there isn't one that fits your theme. Additionally, if you're playing brackets 4 and 5, mana efficiency is way more relevant. What I'm saying is, if you find interaction not very fun, try playing more fun interaction, whether it's a synergistic piece or something just more exciting to play, like Council's Judgment. And I'm also advocating for you to play more interaction. So yes, you can play your Vanquish the Horde, but also play Martial Coup. In addition to that, have both. Now you might be saying, but Khan, isn't that just stopping other players from doing their game plan so you can do yours? And yes, it is. I mean, you kinda have to, right? Unless you are okay with whomever draws their win con first winning the game with 100% certainty, in a world without removal, the deck that just wins the fastest will do so every single time. Even if the whole pod has a deck that wins on average at the same turn, someone goes first. Someone will hit the early ramp. Someone will draw the win con first. Without interaction, casual EDH is just 4 people playing solitaire, casting 5 drops until somebody top decks Insurrection and declares they win the game. I think Commander would be so much less fun if every game I just watched a player do their thing over and over again until I lost, because their thing was one turn faster than mine. And I think you believe that too. There's one more factor that I think leads to a fun game of casual Commander, which I left out earlier, and that is the back and forth of a game, where the player who is in the lead is constantly changing. This is crucial to an interesting, fun, dynamic game of Commander. One turn, the player in the lead is the person with a wide board, and then a board wipe is cast. Now, on a clear board, the player who ramped the most is in the lead, so they dump their hand. But now a second Wrath is cast, and now the player with the most cards in hand, who was perhaps in last place previously, is now in the lead, and they begin to cast their spells. And there's a constant moving around of who is actually ahead in the game. This roller coaster of emotions when a player is on the verge of winning and the right interaction comes down at the right moment is really exciting. I remember a game somewhat recently where I was about to win with an Insurrection, and before I swung out for lethal, a player drew one card and top decked an Obscuring Haze. The whole table popped off, and then now I'm scrambling to figure out a way to not lose to my opponents who are going to untap and attack me. But I play plenty of interaction, so I was able to remove the biggest creature and survive with one life, setting me up to potentially win on my next turn, and then I got taken out by a Boros Charm on the burn mode. That game was a blast to play. The back and forth, the highs and lows really made it exciting for everybody at the table, and it only happened because there was interaction. The game would have been way more boring without the fog stopping my Insurrection. The game would have been way more boring if I didn't have removal letting me live on one life, potentially winning on my next turn. These interaction pieces were integral to the fun of the game. And with the interaction, everybody felt like they were doing part of the game. They were a piece of the puzzle that led to the outcome, instead of sitting and waiting for someone else to do something. And that feeling of not being able to do anything goes away with more interaction. Interaction, especially counterspells, are decision advantageous. The more instant speed ways and points at which you can do stuff when your opponents do things gives you more decisions on, well, what you can actually do during a game. Oftentimes, if you tap out, play your things, and then lose, the game feels like it's happening at you, and you weren't really a contributing factor. But a lot of that goes away if you are doing things. You're making your stuff indestructible, you're wiping away your opponent's board, you're clearing away that big scary artifact. Pieces of your core game plan that do one thing will have a more linear decision tree, but interaction is more fluid in its nature. You're not just playing it when your deck already does a thing, you're doing it in response to someone else. So the decision tree suddenly branches out way further, because at every point where you could use your interaction is a different decision you have to make. I mean, I hate when I hear the phrase, does anybody have interaction? No? Then I win. And I think you believe that too? The back and forth nature of a heavily interactive game is really exciting, and you kinda have to believe that if you're playing casual Commander. The only time a game has no back and forth is when a player gets so far ahead and everyone else just obviously loses. I mean, think about a time when somebody went Soul Ring into a massive resource engine like Smothering Tithe and then just won the game. I assume if nobody removed the Tithe, you knew who was winning the whole time, and it didn't feel very fun. Matching power levels and the whole bracket system and debating power levels has been a thing for, well, basically forever. You don't want somebody to run away with the game and stomp everybody. And in Commander, there are a lot of dangerous snowball cards that lead to that. So interaction being able to rein in those pieces is relevant in stopping that from happening. You want to be able to play your silly theme at the table, but sometimes other people's decks are faster than yours, so you need to do something to match that. Interaction allows for the slower, weaker decks to sometimes sneak in wins, because the players who were constantly being scary got slowed down. Interaction is the solution for a huge amount of problems players have in EDH. Does an ensnaring bridge stop you from doing your thing? Remove it. Does a wrath stop you from doing your thing? Give your team indestructible. Does your opponent's extra turn cause you grief? Counter it. Does your commander getting blown up make you sad? Redirect the spell. Can't beat graveyard decks because they outvalue you every game? Exile their yard. I promise you, almost any problem you have can be solved with interaction. This is why I often advocate for players having more interaction and less amplifiers for their theme. Having your deck do a thing like put counters on stuff, cast enchantments, or crew vehicles is relatively easy to do. For most themes that have reasonable support, you should be able to regularly use your commander and 30 plus cards to enact your game plan. And likely you'll have some interaction that fits with that, at least tangentially. So when I say run more interaction, I'm not telling you to cut your on-theme cards. Here are some options for on-theme cards you could add to your deck that are more fun than most generic options. Try a Mystic Genesis in your Ooze deck. Play Sinister Sabotage in your Self-Mill deck. Wait, was that just 2 counterspells? Sorry, my blue mage is showing a little bit. Want removal in a treasure deck? Try Shiny Impetus. It forces the big scary thing to attack not you, and you make treasures. If you're in a clue deck, play Root Out as your artifact removal. Ooh, did I just suggest things for treasures and clue artifact decks? Sorry, my Trinket Mage is showing. Do you need some creature removal in an Enchantress deck? Try Oubliette. Not only does this trigger any enchantment effects, but it also causes a creature to phase out. So if you use this on a commander, they can't put it in their command zone. By the way, this card is only $2, which is pretty crazy. And if you go to Cool Stuff Inc. and use code TTM at checkout, it'll be even cheaper. I already talked about Martial Coup, but in the same vein, Grand Crescendo is protection and makes dudes. Lots of charms can be great additions to decks. Abzan Charm is awesome in a counters deck and can be removal when needed. Obscure Charm can reanimate a crucial creature when you want it, but also can be counter magic. Interaction is a fascinating subset of cards. It's kind of everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The quote-unquote best ones are some of the most played cards in all of Commander, and I think that taints our perception of them. When I said interaction, I bet a lot of people defaulted to removal, and then defaulted to the most generic mana-efficient options. So with this video, I want to suggest that interaction doesn't need to be that way. You can play interaction that is defensive instead of removal. You can play on-theme removal so that you're not losing card slots to it, and instead are continuing your game plan. I encourage you to run all the good generic interaction you want, and then also play some on-theme interaction as well. Having more interaction will create more exciting back and forth moments in games, less times where one person hits a soul ring into a fast win. And if you slot in on-theme interaction, you're not sacrificing your theme and your deck's goals nearly as much. You can still enact your game plan and have fun while playing interaction. Fun in Casual Commander is not about playing the most mana efficient cards and winning every game. It's about creating exciting moments and big plays. And the longer you play EDH, the more I think you will learn that interaction is the key to doing that. Doing your thing bigger and faster might seem fun at first, but you will get hit with your opponent's interaction and it will knock you down. And to get back to doing your thing can really only be achieved by then slowing other players down while you get back on your feet. Interaction is a key part of optimizing your deck for fun. And I know by saying optimizing for fun, I've opened a whole separate can of worms, so I'll leave that for another video. I hope that you listened to this whole video and decided to find some on-theme interaction that will make your games feel more back and forth and exciting. If you did find some, let me know about them in the comments below. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thanks to my patrons for making these videos possible. My tier 3 patrons' names are scrolling here. If you want to be in the credits or get access to any other perk, check out the Patreon. Link is in the description below. Oh wait, also, last thing, if you're still here, second channel, link in the description below. Ideally, first video out soon.